Hey guys, Jim here, and I have something exciting for you. Something that, I'll be perfectly honest, I did not expect. It came out of left field, and I think a lot of people are going to be very, very excited about this. We're going to talk about a new mid-tech design from Brian Tighe. Yeah, never saw that coming in a million years, and I'm really glad to see him dipping his toes in the water. And here's why. Brian, and for those of you that have followed my channel for any length of time, know that Brian is one of my favorite knife makers in the world, and my very first custom knife, the Tycoon, was actually made for me by Brian. And I do truly, truly love that knife, still have it. I still have every knife I've ever bought from Brian. So I definitely, I'm not an impartial reviewer here, I'll be perfectly honest with you. But I will give you the ups and downs, as I try to always do. Let's talk about the model that we see before us. What you're looking at are 4 different variations of the TIE Fighter. Now, the TIE Fighter is one of his custom models, obviously, and actually just recently made the cover of Blade magazine in a zirconium frame. It was absolutely gorgeous. But what we're looking at here is a more production version of that. And I want to start off kind of giving you an idea while they're all sitting out here, then we'll go into the specifics of what your general options are going to be. All right, so you can choose from 2 different blade styles, either a drop point or a tanto. I do not have one of the drop points here. These are all tanto styles. I'm going to assume that his drop point is going to be somewhat similar to what we see here on the Tycoon. Then from there, you can choose the different finishes. You can either get the polished stonewash that you see here. So it's been obviously nicely tumbled, and then a light polish on that. Or you can get the blasted and tumbled version. It's a very light tumble, so they're doing the media blasting, and then they're doing a light tumble on it after that. So those are your 2 blade finishes. Then you choose what size blade you want. Do you want the 3-inch, which is called the small, or do you want the 3.8-inch, which is called the large? Then from there, you're going to have 2 different mechanisms, I suppose is the best way to put it. You can get into a flipper, or you can get into an auto. So obviously those of you that live in states where automatic knives are prohibited, you're going to want to go into the flipper variation. Alright, so you've got 2 different blade profiles, 2 different blade finishes, 2 different blade sizes, 2 different opening mechanisms, and from there there's going to be a slight difference in some of the finishes in the frame. They call one black black and the other one black gray. So keep that in mind. Let me show you the packaging that they come in. Let's get these out of the way, and then we're going to go to them in order. Such slick little knives. Alright, so this is going to be your packaging, and the official name for these production or mid-tech knives is going to be Brian Tighe and Friends. I'm excited to see what the future holds for that. And you'll see his custom pivot design here as part of the logo. Very simple, basic cardboard box. Reminds me a lot of what we used to get Marfione Customs in. Now we just get regular Microtechs in. So if you've ever owned a Microtech knife, very, very similar packaging right here. And done the same way with the label on the end. TIE Fighter Small, Automatic, Tanto Blade, Stonewash with the dull aluminum black and gray. Now each one is going to be serial numbered. I really dig that idea. And I don't know, and maybe some people doing it, but I don't know of any mid-techs right now being offered that are done as a numbered edition. Jason Browse, and this is really honestly going to be very similar to Jason Browse. You're getting into production mid-tech, so they're going to be made in a large series. I don't even want to say large because I don't want to mislead you in any way. They're not going to make a hell of a lot of these, but it's not like they're just going to be making 100 of them, so keep that in mind. So back to the packaging. Sorry, I had to reach off camera there for a second. Back to the packaging. Let's get this bad boy open. Obviously the knife is not in there. I have all 4 laid out here. When you open it up, you'll be greeted with this, kind of a big deal, limited lifetime warranty. So yeah, lifetime warranty. As the original owner, your new knife is covered for any defects in materials or workmanship. If it ever fails because of material or manufacturing defect, or repair or replace the knife. So kind of a neat thing, and then right down there you see it is individually serial numbered. You have your protective foam here, and then your knife will be put into small plastic baggie and then put into a microfiber bag. Again, very similar to what we used to see, or what we still see Microtech doing. And I make that comparison here because the packaging is very, very similar, and obviously we know them to offer, good high quality as well. So where should I start? Should I start with the big guy or should I start with the little guy? Let's start with the little guy first. Oh, they're so cute! Now, the box that you just saw was for this one, so you have the black frame with the gray. Camera wants to focus on too many things. So we have the black frame with the gray back spacer that goes into this very large open lanyard opening. You're going to see a lot of interesting things here in the design. That's what I always appreciate about Brian. He doesn't do anything half-assed, and really nothing he makes is boring. He is an exceptionally talented machinist. And if you've never seen any of my prior videos, to look at some of the stuff that he's done, this goes back to 2009, back when we used to think tip-down carry was the thing to do. No. Anyway, so this is back in 2009, and I fell completely in love with his work. This goes back to the same era, 2009-ish. This was a very limited collaboration that he did with Joel Perella. I was very, very fortunate to get that. And then more great machining you see here on my tie breaker. This is what Brian is known for, is bringing out, number one, very beautifully sculpted machine frames. He prefers a button lock over everything else, and all of these will have that. And over the years, he has definitely experimented with lots of different ways of grinding his blades. All right, so this is not the automatic. I'm sorry, this is not the flipper. This is the automatic. First things first, let's get a critique out of the way before we start gushing about how awesome the friggin' knives are. I would really love to see a stronger spring. It's a little tiny bit on the weak side. And in this size, I would compare it to a Microtech LUDT. My LUDT fires hard and fast. And this, while it's perfectly acceptable, I would just like a little bit more kick in the ass from it. Most people won't care. This is going to outperform pretty much any production automatic you're going to get your hands on, as far as Benchmades and things like that. I think it's going to have a little bit more snap to it. So let's take a look from tip to tail in detail. First off, these are hollow ground blades. I was very surprised to hear that because this is obviously going to be a machine grind. Very nicely done. I like the very prominent top swedge that we have up here. It really gives a nice profile to the blade. Looks very aggressive. And that's something that I think a lot of people are really going for these days. They want something that's going to be just a little bit tougher looking, especially in this tactical market that we find ourselves in. There again is that custom pivot that we see as the logo of the brand. There is your button lock and also the firing button. And then we see the 3D machined aluminum frame. Nicely done. It's nicely stepped, very clean, looks great. Being aluminum, it's going to be very, very lightweight. It's also going to be really tough. These are all hard anodized handles. And when I talk to these guys, because Brian is working with a manufacturer to do these, when I talked to them, I suggested, all kinds of different colors because, as we all know, Brian likes wild colors. And they said, to get the true hard anodizing that we wanted so that it was actually a tough finish, there's a limitation to what they can really do with this grade of aluminum. They wanted to use the toughest aluminum they could possibly use. And, knowing Brian the way that I do, I know that he only wants to put the highest quality out there. So I can certainly see the reasoning there. Now we take a look at the back spine here. And again, this is done in that two-tone, so you've got the black and the gray. And you notice how the frame itself actually splits. If you were to take the back spine out, this would be completely open. There wouldn't be anything there. And this is an extraordinarily large lanyard opening. This is going to be great, especially for the guys that don't know how to tie their own lanyards. And I really am one of those. I've learned a very, very, very basic knot that I can do on the ones that I really need to tie on. But this is very simple, where you can just simply, you know, push the looped end through, loop the lanyard through, and bam, pop it over and you're done. Really nice custom look, custom feel. Note the custom hardware, all custom machined, will not be found on any other knife. Then we get to the back side, we see the clip standing here with standoffs and the ball bearing, very reminiscent of Todd Begg designs. And the clip itself is split into the same Y and attached only to the frame, not this back spacer. Pretty cool way of doing stuff, I think. I like the way that it looks. And that's kind of a big deal right there. Made in the USA. Now, even though Brian is a proud Canadian, he realizes that a lot of the American market, if they're going to buy a production knife, if they're going to be buying a mid-tech knife, they really want it to be made in the US. So he certainly put forth the extra effort to do that. And that does not come with any small expense. Realize there are a lot of companies now that are going outside of the US to manufacture because they're able to hit a lower price point and satisfy more people. But when that happens, you know, the trolls come out of the woodwork. I ain't buying nothing that ain't made in the USA. Well, that's really rough on the throat. So the choice is satisfy a large market by being able to price your stuff super affordable and not make in the USA, or make in the USA and pay a higher cost because American labor is so much more expensive. And then you're reducing the audience price-wise, but maybe you're opening up to a larger audience that just says they've got to have something made in the US. So it really is flip a coin, and I don't know that there is a right or wrong answer to this. So we're going to get the automatic out of the way, and let's talk about the flipping action on the small. Nice, very, very smooth. These are done with a ceramic ball thrust bearing system that he calls the STBS, stands for Sealed Thrust Bearings System. And as you would expect from all of Brian's knives, it's smooth. It's not a very hard detent. Now, if you do this, you'll see that it doesn't quite want to flip all the way. It is more of a push button action, so you got to kind of preload it a little bit. And, you know, there are plenty of knives like that. I just want you to know that that is the way that it really wants to be fired. So those are the two smalls. You can either go with the flipper or you can go with the automatic. I like the action on the automatic. I just wish it was a teeny tiny bit stronger. That's my only complaint. Oh, let's talk about the ergos for a second. How is this little bitty knife going to fit in the hand? Now, because it is a fighter style knife, what that means is it's gonna lock into the hand where it won't slide out during combat. So you've got this very deep recessed choil here up to the flipper tab, and then the tail of the frame comes around to hook your back fingers. For me, I wear a size large glove. When I put this in my hand, I really have to 3-finger it, just like a girl I knew in high school. Anyway, so I really kind of have to put my pinky right around the rear end. And it feels secure that way. It's not my preferred method of holding it. Because of this, because of the size of my hand, I would prefer to use the larger size. But for those looking for a small carry knife that's very, very easy to EDC, this is going to be that choice. It's slim, as Brian's knives tend to be. And it's lightweight, another hallmark of Brian's designs. So this is definitely going to be the more EDC friendly. Now let's talk about the big one. My favorite thing about this is that it's the weight of this blade, which is highly unexpected from Brian. All you got to do is release that lock and it brings it all the way back down home. Let's look at that blade thickness in comparison to the customs that he typically manufactures. Now you may not see it here. You can definitely see it here. But here's where you're really going to notice it. Look at the difference in the blade stock. Let's take a look now, even at a much larger knife, my Bengal. That gear pattern backspacer doesn't want to let the knife sit there. Even though the Bengal is a really big knife with a 4 1/4 inch blade, you'll see that it is nowhere near the thickness of the Tighe Fighter. And then we put it up against the Tighe Breaker, another very, very, very slim knife. Very big difference. And that's why when I close this, it doesn't go all the way down. I kind of have to give it a little bit of a flick, and then it pops right back in. This one, however, how awesome is that? I really like the large. I like how the large fits in my hand. As you can see, I can forefinger this one, which means she's merry in material. And my thumb lands directly on the jimping. Here's something I'm very thankful for. One of the biggest mistakes makers or manufacturers make on a flipper is putting very aggressive jimping back here. We'll use Hinderer for an example. You pick up an XM18 and you're playing with it long enough and you're flipping it, and what happens is your finger goes right here and it stabs into the very, very sharp jimping that's on the frame. Now, if it's not a flipper, it's not usually that big of a deal. Look at Striders. Striders have very sharp jimping in the same place, but it's not a flipper. You know, you've got that the Strider hole, so it really is of no consequence. But on a flipper, your finger is going to be either raking across it or dropping straight into it. So here, they've recessed the frame. Not only is it nicely recessed downward, but also inward, so it gets nice and wide. And it's very, very comfortable. Even though the back spine is raised, it's very comfortable. It gives you a little bit of additional traction that you won't even realize until you realize, hey, the knife isn't moving, but there's no hot spots. You're not really feeling it. Same thing for the clip. You do notice it. I'm not going to lie. You do feel it there, but it's not a hot spot because it's perfectly level with the standoffs here. It feels like the rest of the knife. It feels like part of the frame. So I find it actually to be very, very comfortable. I like how this feels, and I love how it looks. Now, this version has the polished tumbled blade. So you see it's been stonewashed. Great, great finish on this. And then lightly polished. So what you get is kind of a combo finish, and it's a little bit shiny, it's a little bit pretty, but it's not so much so that you're afraid to use it, because you've already got the marks in the blade from the stone washing that you don't feel any real fear to use it. Nice finish there. By the way, blade steel in all these is 154 cm, so again, USA made using USA steel. Now let's break out the automatic. And I'm kind of thinking this one's my favorite. Again, I would prefer that it kicked a little bit harder. And I think probably it's more of a preference on such a big blade. But as you see, it still kicks my hand a little bit when I'm opening it. If we do this and perfectly stabilize the frame, you see how fast it really is. So it's definitely got some kick to it, but it doesn't kick like a mule. This is definitely the finish that I prefer. There's something about that matte finish that I really like, and then that light tumble to give it a little bit of sparkle in the light. Definitely going to be a knife because of its price range that you'll want to use. So why not have a finish you're going to want to use? You know what? I haven't talked about price yet. So your prices on these will run from $300 to $350 depending on the options that you choose. Now for me, I think that's utterly insane because again, made in the USA. I know what it costs to make because I've talked to some of the manufacturers that have been working with some of these custom makers to make their midtechs. I'm telling you right now, either they have found a way He has found a company that's really giving him a really great deal, or he's taking a lot less profit than he probably should be. But that's really something he does anyway. His customs are some of the most affordable for his level of work that you'll ever get. These are still less than half of what you would pay for a custom. And that's where it's really important. Somebody might go, well, hell, man, $300 ain't no drop in the bucket. Yes, I understand. $300, $350 still expensive for a knife. Let's put that to the side. If you're watching my channel, that should be a given. You need to compare it to the custom, and you're not going to get the custom for even double this price. And therein lies the secret why these are going to do so well. I think they're exceptionally built. I think they're more than just your basic knife. One of the things I've been critiquing on a lot of midtechs lately is, damn it, they're just getting fucking lazy. They'll take their frames, they'll take their blades, everything's just a simple tumble, it's all stone washed. The hardware is just basic off-the-shelf hardware with basic finishing, and that's it, they're done. And I don't care how cool the knife is, when one starts to look like the other and the other and the other, I get tired of it. Here, you've got custom hardware, which looks fantastic. You've got this custom backspacer with the lanyard loop. You've got a custom pivot. You have the hard anodized black finish, or you can get into the two-tone that you saw there with the black and the gray. And then, even though you do have stone-washed finishes for the blades, you can get a stone-wash that's mirrored, or you can get bead blasted and stone-washed. So I think you've got something here that's a little bit more special than what most companies are putting out in mid-tech or in production, however you want to classify these. And they're doing it for less, and that's what blew my mind. When I heard $300, I couldn't believe it. So I hope you guys are as excited as I am for this. Today, as I'm recording this, it is the opening day at the Blade Show. And that is where these knives just made their debut in Atlanta today. And that's why I wanted to get this video done today. Hoping to upload it on the same day. It may be Saturday. So if you're watching this right now, these are now available for public release, and their website just went live, which I think was briantigheandfriends.com, if I'm not mistaken. Otherwise, you could simply Google Brian Tighe and Friends, and you'll come across it easily. So there you have it, guys. Again, like I said, I love Brian. He brought me into this world of custom knives back in 2009, and I've never looked back. So I definitely am biased. I'm not going to lie. But if it was utter trash, I would have never done the review. If it was mediocre and had a lot of weak points, I would have told you about it. And again, my only real critique is I wish the springs were just a tad stronger on the automatics, but it's definitely strong enough to make most everybody happy. You saw them fire, you can judge that for yourself. That's it for me, guys. I'm going to hop on out of here, and I will see you on the next video.